They were a young couple in love.
They hit it off from the beginning.
These two young people seem to have it all together.
They had a bright future ahead of them.
Until it all went up in smoke.
911 received a frantic call.
911.
The apartment was on fire.
His girlfriend is stuck inside.
Please, send someone, hurry up!
Was it simply a tragic accident?
And I heard that alarm going off.
All I can see is yellow tape and a bunch of police cars.
Or were there smoldering secrets?
Everything wasn't all peaches and cream.
He met a new girl every day.
Were they looking at a love triangle?
And when passions flare, all it takes is one spark.
How do you think this fire started?
That it's very troubling, the things that people do because of love.
How could you what?
July 18th, 2012. It's a sweltering Wednesday afternoon in Phoenix, Arizona, one of the fastest growing metros in America.
Phoenix is the anchor city of a sprawling, multi-city metropolitan area known as Valley of the Sun.
This time of the year, it's hot, triple digits. We're looking at 110s, 115s.
And on this 112-degree Arizona afternoon, things are about to get even hotter.
Phoenix police get a call from a very frantic man. He says that his apartment is on fire.
911. What is your emergency?
My apartment's on fire, my girlfriend's inside.
The caller is 21-year-old Dwandarius Robinson.
He reports that his girlfriend, Shaniqua Hall, may be inside of the building.
She was there when I left.
Do you think she's still inside?
I don't know.
He's frantic. He doesn't know what's going on.
I tried to get in, but I couldn't.
With all the smoke, he didn't want to risk taking his daughter in there.
Please, send someone, hurry up!
And if Shaniqua is trapped inside, she isn't the only one.
She's 9 months pregnant.
God, my baby, Shaniqua.
At only 21, Shaniqua Hall had a bright future ahead of her.
She was a vibrant young woman, a positive person.
She was really a fun-loving, outgoing girl who really loved to joke around.
She was a light in everyone's life.
And the light of her life was her boyfriend, Dwandarius.
Can I get an application?
Dwandarius Robinson, also known as Darius to family and friends, met Shaniqua Hall while they were in high school.
Fill out your first name.
She actually came to his job applying for a position, and he helped her.
Thanks. I really hope I get the job.
Yeah, me too.
They just kind of hit it off from the beginning.
Shaniqua did get the job, and soon she and Darius grew closer.
She had the night shift. He would walk her home every night.
And from there, they just start falling in love.
You want to come in? Meet my mom?
Yeah, I love that.
Shaniqua came from a very loving family. They were very present. They were very supportive.
It was a life Darius had never known.
Dwandarius did not come from a stable home.
Look who's coming in the door.
His mother was in prison.
Well, hi, Darius. How are you?
His father wasn't in the picture, and he'd spent most of his childhood being passed around between relatives.
Have a seat.
Thinking about what that means for a young child, he might have felt that he wasn't loved or didn't have someone that really cared.
But once he met Shaniqua, all that changed.
Shaniqua's family kind of brought him in.
Shaniqua's mom really started to take to Dwandarius.
if he was walking her home at night after they got off late, her mother cared enough to say, hey, it's okay to stay at our house. We want to keep you safe as well.
Those occasional overnight stays eventually became permanent.
Shaniqua's mom allowed him to move in the house with them.
He probably really appreciated it, honestly, to have people that would look out for him.
Darius was finally able to find a family.
And with support from Shaniqua's family, Darius thrived.
He was working hard, he was going to school, and he was going to church every week.
However, there were some complications.
Hey, Ma. While he was living there, Shaniqua became pregnant.
I have something to show you.
Oh, wow.
Instead of making them feel bad for their mistakes, Shaniqua's mom really supported them.
We're gonna get through this together. She allowed them to stay there until they graduated high school.
I'm real happy for you.
In 2009, the happy couple had a beautiful baby girl.
These two parents are so excited.
They get an apartment of their own.
Shaniqua got a job at a call center.
Darius is working as a security guard at a local college.
This is a young couple, fresh out of high school, really trying to make it work.
And then, at the end of 2011, the young couple got more exciting news.
They were expecting their second child.
There was a lot of excitement around just preparing for a new baby.
The family moved into a new, bigger apartment.
And they were also making big plans for the future.
Shaniqua and Darius started talking about getting married.
It's not often times that people this young can actually come together and build a life, but they seem to have done it.
Only now, it looks like their bright future may be in jeopardy.
911 received a frantic call stating that there was a fire in the apartment.
I tried to get in, but I couldn't. Please, send someone, hurry up!
He's afraid that his girlfriend, Shaniqua, is stuck inside the burning apartment.
She's in here, she's in here!
When first responders arrive on the scene, Darius meets them in the parking lot.
He led the firefighters into the apartment.
She's in here, she's in here!
The last he knew, Shaniqua was in the apartment.
Firefighters rush inside and quickly assess the situation.
They start looking for any signs of anyone that may still be alive and immediately see white smoke in the hallway.
The bulk of the smoke seems to be coming from the bedroom.
When he reaches the bedroom door, he opens it and he's met with thick smoke.
The area around the bed was in flames.
They immediately put out the fire with a portable fire extinguisher.
Once the blaze is out, the firefighters find Shaniqua.
They found Shaniqua on the floor between the bed and the wall.
She was badly burned.
It is too late to save her.
And it doesn't look like her death is an accident.
She had a rag stuffed in her mouth.
She was bound by duct tape.
We're gonna have one victim on the inside.
Shaniqua Hall and Darius Robinson couldn't wait to welcome their new addition to the world.
They were both excited about the birth of this second child.
In preparation, they'd moved into a new, bigger apartment.
Everything was looking up for them.
But now, after Darius called 911 and reported a fire at their apartment, firefighters have found Shaniqua's badly burned body in the couple's bedroom. And her death appears to be no accident.
Her hands were bound with duct tape.
There's a rag in her mouth.
Once the fire is out, first responders call in homicide detectives.
We're gonna have one victim on the inside.
It looks like the fire was set to hide a crime.
Was it a robbery or home invasion?
When homicide detectives arrive on the scene, they quickly rule out the robbery angle.
There doesn't seem to be any forced entry, and it doesn't look like anything was disturbed.
There was no ransacking, no electronics gone, no valuables gone.
In fact, the detectives suspect that Shaniqua's killer may have left something behind.
They found 2 rolls of duct tape on the kitchen counter.
One that's almost completely finished and one that has not been used.
The used roll is a match for the tape used to bind Shaniqua.
They also found a mostly empty bottle of lighter fluid.
It definitely looks like somebody came in to intentionally torture and kill Shaniqua.
It will take an autopsy to determine if she was dead before the blaze began, but detectives have little doubt she was doused with the accelerant and set on fire.
In this instance, the fire was localized to the bed and the floor where the deceased person was found. That, in and of itself, is suspicious.
The fire had largely sputtered out before the apartment was fully engulfed.
Something like lighter fluid, it doesn't burn for very long. So it's not going to do the type of damage that the person that set the fire was intending.
Detectives have Darius make arrangements for his daughter, then transport him to the station for a formal statement.
Police take Darius while detectives stay and canvass the area.
They start by speaking to the neighbors who've gathered outside.
Quite a few neighbors said that they heard the smoke alarms going off.
I heard that alarm going off. I didn't know it was a fire alarm.
They didn't see any smoke or any fire.
And no one saw anything suspicious.
During that whole time, I didn't see one person leave or enter.
The next thing anyone knew, police and firefighters were there, and Darius was outside with his daughter.
He looks really upset. I was watching through the window, just kind of trying to figure out what's going on.
The neighbors were mostly in shock that Shaniqua was dead.
Did she mention any trouble between the two of them or anything like that?
Darius and Shaniqua's neighbors all say they seemed like a happy couple.
Friendly people, you know, like when they saw them, they'd say hi.
Thank you.
When the canvass is complete, detectives head back to the precinct to take Darius's statement.
Darius didn't have any problem cooperating.
He still seemed pretty shaken by what happened.
Start with this morning and bring me up to now.
So about like a little bit right before 4.
He says he went to work.
We got off work at 1 o'clock. I left like 3 minutes afterwards.
Okay, and then what do you do?
I went across the street to the store.
He said he had picked up a few groceries, and then he went back to the apartment.
He saw Shaniqua and they talked a little bit.
Then, to give Shaniqua a little alone time, he had taken their daughter out to lunch.
But their father-daughter moment was about to take a disastrous turn.
When he returned, he said he saw the smoke and he heard the fire alarms.
Shaniqua!
Did you ever make it up into the apartment?
I had my daughter in my hand. I wasn't gonna do that.
So that's when he made the frantic 911 call.
911, what is your emergency?
My apartment's on fire. My girlfriend's inside.
Darius's story fits with what the detectives know, but there are parts of it that give them pause.
Shaniqua was 9 months pregnant with their child, and he didn't go in and try to save them.
I didn't know whether or not she was still in there.
She was there when you left.
Was there some secret about the couple's relationship the neighbors hadn't seen?
What would you describe your relationship with your girlfriend like?
Man, we have our days where we have verbal disagreements and go back and forth with each other, but not the typical normal.
And when the detectives ask if anyone else might want to hurt Shaniqua, he says no.
There's no reason why anybody would set fire to your apartment.
No.
Then, at the conclusion of the interview, the detectives ask one last thing of Darius.
We're gonna forensically examine your clothing for signs of accelerant.
It's standard procedure for these kinds of investigations.
Finished with Darius, the detectives turn to Shaniqua's mother, who's been waiting anxiously for answers.
Thank you for coming in. I'm sorry for your loss.
Her mom and several other family members showed up to the crime scene as soon as they got word.
They were advised by officers still on the scene to go on and head down to the station and speak with detectives.
Her mom starts by filling detectives in on her daughter's relationship with Darius.
She talked about how they've been together since they were teenagers, how she took him in under her roof.
He's been around for a long time.
This is someone that she said was like family.
Much like the neighbors, she said she never saw any trouble in the relationship.
Was he ever physical with her? No. Was she physical with him?
No.
However, she also says that their relationship wasn't perfect.
I know that he's a cheater.
He's a cheater?
He's a cheater.
And she says there's proof.
Darius has a baby with another woman.
Detectives investigating the murder of Shaniqua Hall have just learned that her boyfriend, Darius Robinson, has been unfaithful.
Shaniqua's mother told the investigators that Darius had gotten someone else pregnant.
Her name is Stephanie Cameron.
According to Shaniqua's mom, Darius got Stephanie pregnant while he was dating Shaniqua.
Because the baby's about a year and a half now.
She also said there's no doubt that Darius is the father of her child.
We've seen a picture of the baby.
She said the little boy looked just like Darius.
Shaniqua's mother says that her daughter had been upset when she found out about Stephanie's pregnancy. But she didn't break things off with Darius.
Relationship infidelity is not always a deal breaker.
Despite the fact that he had gotten another woman pregnant, Shaniqua decided to forgive him.
That wasn't the only unusual thing Shaniqua did.
Shaniqua had actually contacted Stephanie.
She goes to her and says, you know, I want to let you know our children can be siblings. They are siblings, and we should get to know each other.
Despite the circumstances, the two women had done just that.
They started talking and communicating back and forth.
We have this very interesting dynamic of two women finding out that they have children by the same man, and they actually build a relationship.
How mature, how selfless, too, to think about her child and having an expanded family, a blended family.
However, according to Shaniqua's mother, the kids weren't all the two women talked about.
She said that Shaniqua and Stephanie had also talked a lot about Darius.
They became like friends. Teenage girls comparing notes.
They would cross-reference stories that he told each of them.
According to Shaniqua's mom, Darius spent several months trying to juggle both relationships.
Darius was telling one he was going to stay with them, and he was telling the other one the same thing.
Until he found out that his two girlfriends were talking behind his back.
And he kind of felt betrayed that they have this relationship that they've been building behind his back.
When he found out about that they were communicating, he was mad, he yelled, you know, why are you in my business? It's none of your business what I do.
None of my business? No. You're the one who's cheating. You know what?
According to Shaniqua's mother, it was only then that her daughter decided she'd had enough.
She put him out.
She put him out.
She was like, get out of my house.
When he left, Darius had gone to stay with Stephanie, and Shaniqua had tried to move on.
She said, you know, Mommy, I'm done. I'm gonna move on with my life. Well, baby, that's what you need to do. You need to move on.
Unfortunately, Shaniqua had not followed her mother's advice.
A couple months later, I find out he's back.
And he was back with Shaniqua because Stephanie had put him out.
For what reason?
Because he was still communicating with Shaniqua.
Shaniqua's mother says she was initially skeptical about the reconciliation.
Over time, she said she realized that Darius and her daughter were committed to working things out.
Every weekend, I cook Sunday dinners.
Right.
Him, Darius.
And how are those situated?
They were fine. Everybody's laughing and talking.
And with the new baby on the way, their commitment had only grown.
They were talking about marriage.
She told you?
Was it possible Stephanie found out about the marriage plans?
It is a possibility that she could have sought revenge.
Detective decided they need to have a chat with this other woman.
And their suspicions of Stephanie only deepen after the detectives talked to Shaniqua's aunt.
The detectives reached out to her aunt because she was the last person who spoke to Shaniqua other than Darius.
My understanding is you had a phone conversation with Shaniqua.
Yes, she called me at 12:34.
The last time that Shaniqua spoke with her aunt was just hours before she died.
We discussed about the baby.
She had talked to her almost every day about how excited she was about the pregnancy.
Do you have any knowledge of DeJuan Darius's, I guess, looking forward to this child, or was there any type of regrets or negativity surrounding it?
Well, she did state to me that he had seemed happy.
However, she also says there was one thing that still worried Shaniqua.
She said that the girlfriend that he had, she felt kind of off about that.
According to Shaniqua, Darius had been keeping Stephanie in the dark.
She didn't think that he had even told her that she was pregnant and having another baby.
Detectives suspect there may have been bad blood between Shaniqua Hall and Stephanie Cameron over the father of their children, Darius Robinson.
Darius and Shaniqua reconciled, and they were living together once again.
Shaniqua was also 9 months pregnant with her and Darius's second child.
According to Shaniqua's aunt, Darius had never shared the news with Stephanie, who he also had a child with.
But now detectives wonder if Stephanie had found out.
Shaniqua was far enough along that there was no hiding it.
Could this have been the cause of the murder?
If Stephanie was already jealous that Darius was getting back with Shaniqua, maybe the news of them expecting a baby pushed her over the edge.
When the detectives bring Stephanie in for questioning, she appears more than willing to cooperate.
I heard about what happened to Shaniqua, but I just can't believe it.
She was super shocked that anybody would want to do anything like this to her.
I had nothing to do with that, if that's what you're assuming.
But she's adamant that she's not involved.
Stephanie told the detectives there was no beef between them. There was no anger. In fact, they had become friends.
They both wanted to do the best that they could for their children.
They were really excited about raising the kids together as siblings.
Both women displayed a level of maturity, a level of kindness, a level of support and love and selflessness.
I didn't even know that Darius and her were together until after I was pregnant.
But she says she'd known Darius a lot longer.
She's known DeJuan Darius since they were kids.
She says, however, their relationship was short-lived.
He had moved in a month before their child was born and then 5 months afterwards. She said she really had no more dealings with him at all.
You weren't jealous that he went back to Shaniqua?
Lord, no. If anything, I said she can have him.
She said she didn't really want Darius back. He lied about everything, and he was very manipulative.
Like, Darius was telling me one thing and then would turn around and tell Shaniqua another.
She talked about how they used to compare notes.
Stephanie says that Shaniqua had given her all the dirt about her relationship with Darius.
I'm just surprised she took him back, especially after how they fought.
According to Stephanie, Shaniqua said that she and Darius argued all the time.
It wasn't very violent, just a little pushing and shoving.
He ever put hands on you?
No, but there is something you should know.
Stephanie lets detectives know that Shaniqua and Darius were engaged in a child support battle.
Stephanie said she found out about the child support dispute because some of the court papers got sent to her at her house.
He owed about $10,000 in back payments.
To detectives, it sounded like Stephanie was suggesting that Darius might have a motive to get rid of Shaniqua.
Having the stress of child support, having money issues, it could possibly be domestic violence.
Or is Stephanie just trying to throw the detectives off her trail?
Where were you Wednesday afternoon?
I was in California.
Okay.
And when investigators look into Stephanie's alibi, it checks out.
They were able to confirm it from multiple witnesses.
What Stephanie told them about the child support also tracks.
Detectives pulled the court records and determined that Darius was supposed to be paying child support to Shaniqua for their first daughter.
Shaniqua had filed for child support when she kicked Darius out.
Was that really a motive for murder?
Shaniqua and Darius were thinking about getting married.
Now, if that happened, wouldn't the child support case go away?
The detectives are still digging into the child support issue when they get an urgent call from Shaniqua's sister.
Homicide.
Shaniqua's sister informs them that things weren't as rosy as everyone saw.
There's something you need to know about Shaniqua and Darius.
She said that Shaniqua suspected Darius was cheating on her again.
She didn't tell Mama, since Mama didn't want her to get back with him to begin with.
He was receiving text messages, he was getting phone calls at all hours of the night.
And according to her sister, Shaniqua had recently gotten proof that Darius was still stepping out.
A week before the murder, Darius got a ticket from a red light camera.
The car was registered in Shaniqua's name, therefore the ticket went to Shaniqua.
The photo from the traffic camera came with the ticket.
In it, you could see Darius behind the wheel.
And he wasn't alone.
There was another woman in the car. It was not Shaniqua.
It wasn't Stephanie either.
He got himself another girl.
Shaniqua was furious.
She told her sister, she's done, it's over, this was the last straw.
There was no way she was gonna marry him.
Detectives investigating Shaniqua Hall's murder have just learned that she was having second thoughts about marrying her boyfriend, Dwandarius Robinson.
Shaniqua's sister had let detectives know that Shaniqua had found out that Darius was a serial cheater.
Shaniqua was thinking he was not ready for the type of commitment that she needed.
Could the impending breakup be a factor in Shaniqua's murder?
Darius already owed her child support for the one baby. If they separated, he'd be on the hook for the second one, too.
Now suspicious of Darius, detectives go back over his story.
They were particularly interested in what happened in the hours leading up to the 911 call.
He said that after work, he stopped by the grocery store to get a few things. And then he went home to take his baby girl to lunch.
To check up on Darius's story, detectives pay a visit to the supermarket Darius supposedly stopped into on his way home from work.
When the detectives reviewed the store's surveillance video from that day, it confirmed Darius's story.
The surveillance video clearly shows Darius at the grocery store.
However, that's not all the footage reveals.
Among the items that Darius purchased at the grocery store were 2 rolls of duct tape.
He also purchased lighter fluid.
Just so happened, he purchased it a few hours before the fire took place.
With video evidence that appears to connect Darius to both the murder and the arson, the detectives bring him in for another round of questioning.
Investigators wanted to get some more information about what really happened in that apartment that day.
They start by asking Darius about the child support he owed Shaniqua.
From Darius's reaction, it was clear that the child support was a source of frustration.
But you live with her mother.
I know.
So why do you pay child support?
We lived together forever.
However, Darius said that the child support wasn't going to be an issue once they got married.
We got all that settled.
Okay.
Although, based on what Shaniqua's sister told them, the detectives knew that was not true.
When the detectives confront him about the lighter fluid and the duct tape, Darius doesn't deny that it's him in the store surveillance video.
He admits to having purchased them.
However, He also says he can explain.
The tape is for this project I was going to work on. We got the soda box. I was going to make something out of it.
He said he wanted to make it a dispenser in the refrigerator.
Okay, to dispense soda cans type thing?
Yeah, we drop it down. We just keep having to empty it.
Darius said that there was a totally innocent explanation for the lighter fluid, too.
She wanted to do like a family day and make burgers.
But despite Darius's attempts to explain away the tape and the lighter fluid, the detectives aren't buying it.
Don't you think that it's just outrageously coincidental that she's bound up with the duct tape that you bought?
Yeah, duct tape my freaking gut, friend.
He also denied setting her on fire.
I wasn't there.
Well, you were, kind of. You were closer to it than I was.
I was outside. I don't know what happened inside.
Darius kept denying it, saying that it was just a coincidence. But the detectives, they don't believe in coincidences.
There's a lot more to this story than what you're telling me.
How you know?
Because I know what happened in that apartment. I know that your girlfriend's dead in there. I know that there was duct tape used in her death. And I know that she was set on fire. And you were at Albertson's buying duct tape and lighter fluid, and suddenly this happened.
Proof that I did that to her.
Well, it certainly is a strong indication that you did.
After laying out the evidence against him, the detectives give Darius one last chance to come clean.
I want you to think real hard about how you want to be portrayed in this. If you have anything to do with this at all, if this was you that did this, then you need to get out in front of this and be a good guy. Good people do things sometimes on the spur of the moment that they regret later. If you stay on the road of, I don't know what you're talking about, detective, and then later on it turns out to be you appear to be a cold-blooded killer. On the other hand, if this is something that got out of control, and you're genuinely sorry for it, this is the time to tell me that that's the case.
I wasn't there.
You were not there. You didn't have anything to do with this. I don't believe you.
At the end of the interview, the detectives place Darius under arrest.
You're not going home tonight.
I'm not going home.
Negative. Under no circumstances are you going home. You're going to be booked into jail on 2 counts of first-degree murder.
They not only charged him with Shaniqua's murder, but for the unborn babies as well.
And the evidence against Darius gets even stronger when the detectives get the test results back from the crime lab.
The crime lab was able to determine that there was an accelerant that was used.
According to the lab, the accelerant was some form of petroleum distillate.
Petroleum distillate is found in items such as charcoal, lighter fluid, paint thinner, and mineral spirits.
And the crime lab also found traces of it somewhere else.
Darius had accelerant on the clothes that he was wearing the day of Shaniqua's murder.
The type of that accelerant that was used was charcoal lighter fluid. If a different accelerant was used, such as gasoline, it would have burned longer and hotter, and it would have probably created more damage. In this case, it was absolutely not enough time to do the type of damage that whoever intentionally set the fire thought it was going to do.
Phoenix detectives have arrested 21-year-old Darius Robinson for the murder of his girlfriend, Shaniqua Hall, and the couple's unborn child.
They had store surveillance footage of him buying the tape used to tie up Shaniqua and the lighter fluid to start the fire.
They also found accelerant on his clothes.
And when the detectives received the results of Shaniqua's autopsy, it's clear that she'd met a violent end.
The medical examiner was not able to conclusively determine a cause of death. However, the report indicated that there were signs of blunt force trauma, strangulation, and burn damage to the body.
Shaniqua's mother is still struggling to make sense of the heinous crime when the detectives follow up with her the day after Darius's arrest.
There was never a sign of anything, no physical violence, no domestic violence.
We have to think about what Shaniqua's mother is feeling. She lost her daughter, but she also lost someone that was like a son to her.
You always call, Mom, thank you for being a mom, thank you for being, and that's all I was ever.
She was trying so hard to be loving and extending that love and grace and support, only for it to end with tragedy.
How could you do this to the family? That, basically for 5 years was there for you. And then it's like, what?
It just really hurts. She trusted this man.
I'm not going to insult you and say that I know what you're going through, because I don't. But what I can say is that we're here to, do our best to make sure that, your family gets some justice.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
When Dwandarius goes on trial for murder, the prosecutors portray him as a man who felt trapped.
He was already paying child support for the one kid, and now with Shaniqua 9 months pregnant and refusing to marry him, he was going to be on the hook for the second child as well.
He was probably very focused on, I need to get out, I need to escape. She is the reason why I'm having these problems, the reason why I'm unhappy, and I just need her to be gone. And sadly and tragically, he chose violence to get out of this situation.
According to the prosecutors, he not only chose violence, he planned it.
He knew exactly what he was going to do that day. He went into the store purposely to buy the duct tape, to buy lighter fluid.
Then he went home and put his plan into motion.
When he arrived at the apartment, he attacked her.
He stuffed her mouth with this rag.
And bound her with duct tape.
Then he killed her.
He strangled her while her 2-year-old daughter was still in the home.
Possibly she was out in the living room watching cartoons. Possibly she heard what was going on.
All the prosecutors know for sure is that Darius doused the little girl's mother with lighter fluid and set her aflame.
Others in an apartment complex who could die, and their children. He's not focused on that. He doesn't care about that. He only cares about escaping this situation.
But in his hurry to escape, Darius made a mistake.
As he left the bedroom where Shaniqua lay dead, he closed the door behind him.
Oxygen is necessary for a fire to burn hot and to burn long.
Closing the door, cut off the oxygen to the fire so the fire could no longer breathe.
Which was why there was only white smoke in the hallway and not a raging inferno.
Darius had to have been shocked when he returned to the apartment.
He fully expected to get back to the apartment in flames.
But with Shaniqua already dead inside, there was no turning back.
911, what is your emergency?
My apartment's on fire, my girlfriend's inside.
When it's the defense's turn, they stick to Darius's story.
He simply came home and found the apartment on fire.
He had nothing to do with it.
They claimed the fact that he bought the lighter fluid and tape a little over an hour before is nothing but a coincidence.
But the jury doesn't believe in coincidences any more than the detectives did.
The jury finds Dwandarius Robinson guilty on 2 counts of murder.
Dwandarius Robinson was sentenced to death in the murder of Shaniqua Hall and her unborn baby.
Dwandarius getting the death sentence may feel like justice initially, but the reality is that there is never enough justice when someone you love is taken in such a terrible, violent way.
This is something that should have never happened.
There were so many more options that Darius could have taken. He could have allowed that child to be born.
Instead, he's in prison. and his surviving daughter is left to suffer the consequences of his selfish action.
I think about this young girl growing up and then understanding one day how her mother died and why her mother died. And I hope that she will know that even though she has difficult days ahead as she grows without a mother, that she will always be loved and that her mother is still with her and loving her.
Flint, Michigan is a hard-working town with a proud history. From labor rights to civil rights, its dedicated residents have fought hard for equality since the city's inception. But in recent years, the city has become known for one of the worst public health disasters America has ever seen. In 2014, Flint's water supply became contaminated, and the response from state officials would only exacerbate the problem, endangering the lives of nearly 100,000 people. The crisis and the alleged cover-up would have lingering effects and test the limits of people's faith in their government. The story of Flint's rise and fall begins in 1908, when General Motors established its headquarters along the very river that gave the city its name. And once GM set up shop, workers from all over flocked to Flint.
I look at it as a city where folks came from Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas to find a better life and work in the General Motors factory during a certain period of time. I think that's what most of us know Flint for.
Flint basically built General Motors. At one time, I think there were 80,000 people employed just in this city alone.
Thanks to Flint's dedicated workers, motor cars were flying off assembly lines at warp speed.
There were car factories on every side of town that were attracting, in some cases, tens of thousands of workers from all over the country and the world, and so the population here exploded.
But many automotive jobs were difficult and dangerous.
Many people would get sick and they carry them out and they keep the line going. It was just really some horror stories about working conditions before the union. We made the best of it, but we also, here in Flint, we had strong civil rights leaders.
Sit down, sit down, sit down and take a seat. Sit down and rest your feet. Sit down, you gotta be. Sit down.
On December 30th, 1936, the workers of Flint fought back against the horrendous working conditions and staged a historic strike in an effort to unionize.
We were the home of the great sit-down strike. Victory was won to recognize the UAW as a collective bargaining representative for the workers. The benefit of the strike wasn't just to the people who worked at General Motors, but it was a benefit to the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, because they all benefited from the lucrative wages and benefits of auto workers.
They did that by taking over the factories outright and refusing to leave until they got what they wanted. And there were some famous, clashes with police.
After 44 days of workers effectively shutting down GM plants, the company finally agreed to meet the demands. It was the first major union victory in America.
Flint is the place where the United Auto Workers was essentially born. And it was born in struggle with workers in car factories here fighting for better working conditions.
It was quite an achievement. It inspired union organizing drives around the country. And the whole world applauded the Flint victory because we tackled that against the biggest corporation at that time in the world.
High-paying jobs with good benefits helped accelerate the Great Migration of the early 20th century. Black workers, however, still faced many obstacles.
Even though African Americans arrived at Flint in large numbers for a better life than what they were getting, there weren't open arms welcoming them.
The North had its own system of segregation in place, and people discovered that pretty quickly.
We experienced the segregation, the double standards, housing, the schools, the two tiers of one is a full citizen and one not so much.
To address the problem of segregated housing laws, the community once again organized.
There were sleep-ins on the lawn of City Hall. There was just a lot of popular mobilization and determination.
In 1968, Flint voters responded with a new city ordinance.
We passed one of the first open housing laws where blacks could live wherever they wanted to in the city of Flint.
We cannot underestimate the power of residents and power of people to step up and take control of their lives.
We got through some of the segregation and the discrimination which goes on to this day. Flint was a good town for black folks.
At one time, the black worker in Flint, along with Detroit, were among the highest paid workers in the world.
They used to say, like, at any given Friday, you had over $1 million in paychecks floating around the city, which to me is like phenomenal, especially in a time in which we're talking about the 60s, 70s. Like, that is a lot of money.
Unfortunately, the 1970s were a step backwards. Predominantly black neighborhoods were destroyed to make way for a new highway benefiting General Motors.
They wanted to have full access to always be able to ship their equipment and things out. So you talk about knocking down a whole black community in order to put 475 in. So you displace a whole generation of people, black people.
3,000 black residents were forced to move into newly integrated areas, which many white residents didn't like.
The white population of the city started to leave, a phenomenon that we call white flight. And they left for the suburbs. Ultimately, Flint became a majority African-American city. With the flood of white residents out of the city of Flint, you see a huge exodus of wealth into the suburban ring around the city. So you have a suburb that's better positioned economically to pay for police and water and everything else than a city of 80,000 people.
Flint's economy continued to decline through the 80s and 90s as General Motors faced increasing pressure from foreign competition.
As General Motors declined and as the automotive industry declined, so did Flint.
General Motors started to close factories and lay off workers, which had a devastating impact on the local economy. The city tried a number of strategies to get General Motors to stay. Some of them are kind of infamous, like the construction of an amusement park called Auto World. That was an infamous disaster. We had levels of unemployment skyrocket. We had levels of vacancy skyrocket. We've got a higher percentage of vacant properties here in Flint than in just about any other city in the country.
By 2006, GM employed only 8,000 workers in Flint.
At one time, Flint was like the fourth best place to live. And it goes from that to every other block is abandoned because everyone just, big exodus out of Flint. Homeowners are looking to their left and their right, and the houses are abandoned.
2 years later, along with the rest of the country, Flint was hit by the banking crisis of 2008. In 2011, the city found itself in the throes of an economic meltdown, barely able to provide even the most basic city services. That's when Michigan Governor Rick Snyder decided to take drastic action by appointing a so-called emergency manager to take control of the city's collapsing finances and infrastructure, including its water supply.
The rationale is that it's going to help a community prevent the need for bankruptcy.
Instead, It set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately end in one of the greatest man-made disasters in American history.
They looked at the emergency manager as somebody's coming in to help black folks, when really the emergency manager was coming in to take control of the black folks' resources, their democracy.
They sold us this big dream that, this was going to save us, things were going to get back on track, but we weren't thinking it would be something that's detrimental to our health.
By 2011, the city of Flint, Michigan is battered and bruised. 40 years of economic decline has taken its toll, and the town has fallen into disrepair.
You start to see things like dilapidated buildings and houses too, vacant housing. So blight becomes a problem, homelessness becomes more of a problem, crime, poverty, those kinds of things.
Late that year, Michigan Governor Rick Snyder appoints an emergency manager who will take full control over Flint's finances with the selling point of getting the city's revenue back in the black. But residents are weary of the emergency manager's unchecked power.
In Michigan, an emergency manager has full control over all of a city's contracts. They can have such authority that they could even dissolve a city council. They really do have complete authority.
They didn't have to answer to the people. They didn't have to answer to the elected officials.
Over the next few years, 4 different emergency managers sell off vast amounts of public assets to make up some of the city's budget deficit.
When these emergency managers come to town, they slice off pieces of that public sphere and they hand them over to private interests of various kinds.
But the selling off of Flint's public resources creates problems elsewhere.
In Flint, emergency managers have eliminated our parks and recreation departments, and we have over 70 parks. It has put an incredible strain on staff, and residents have had to really pick up the work as volunteers.
By 2012, one of Flint's most pressing financial issues revolves around its water, which it purchases from the Detroit Water and Sewage Department.
Ever since the late 1960s, Flint had been receiving drinking water through a Detroit-owned and operated water system that was sourced from Lake Huron. And Lake Huron is a very high-quality source of drinking water. It's very stable. It doesn't require a lot of treatment.
But the water comes at a premium. By 2012, Flint owes Detroit over $9 million for water that it's having trouble repaying. And residents are having hard times paying for the water, too.
Water at this point is about the cost of many mortgages in the city of Flint.
The city manager devises a plan to join a new water pipeline managed by the Carrick-Nundy Water Authority that would save Flint $200 million over the next 25 years. The pipeline is sold as a win-win for Flint's residents.
We can lower the prices if we get our own pipeline. The long-term benefits for our children and grandchildren and the prices they would pay.
First on the agenda this evening is a special order on the Carrick-Nundy Water Authority.
Based on the state's glowing sales pitch, Flint's City Council goes all in without public input.
The City Council was given an opportunity by the emergency manager at that time to chime in on whether or not the city should join the Carrick-Nundy water pipeline project. And the City Council actually voted in favor of that.
That concludes the special order.
The council's move, however, caused concern amongst many citizens.
But it's the people's turn.
And all the while this is going on, I don't see where anybody is looking out for the people who have to pay the water bills.
It was something that was made without any consent from the people who actually live here, work here, and ultimately have to drink and consume that water.
Flint City Council intends to use the Detroit water source until the new pipeline is operational, but the plan hits a major snag.
There were barriers to negotiating new rates with Detroit between the emergency manager and the Detroit water and sewerage system. A decision was made unilaterally by the emergency manager to switch to the Flint River water.
The idea was that we would be on Flint River water for 2 years while the Carignan Water Authority KWA pipeline was being built.
And we'll use our own water treatment facility to treat that water. And that's where the problem started.
Flint's aging water treatment plant, which hasn't been operational in years, gets a slight refurbish to make the switch.
3, 2, 1.
And the button was pushed in 2014 to switch from the Detroit source of water to the Flint River.
I've been told, since I was a child to stay away from that river. There are still people around who remember dumping things, next to the river on the order of some superior at the factory they worked at.
My grandparents came here in the 50s, and they never really fooled with the Flint River because it was known as the cesspool.
Soon after the switch, residents begin to notice alarming changes.
Folks were complaining about the taste of the water, the smell of the water, the look of the water itself.
We start seeing first the discoloration of the water. You could see it coming out of the faucet, yellow and golden water.
But it's just the beginning of something far worse.
Nobody laid down and dreamt that when they made that switch, the catastrophic outcome of that situation. Nobody dreamed it.
On April 25th, 2014, Flint's pipes begin to flow with water coming from the Flint River. It's a move that has many worried.
We were leery of that source of water. And we was also leery that the Flint water plant had the ability to treat and clean it up.
The water treatment plant in Flint had not been fully operational for many decades, did not have the right kind of people and expertise and equipment to adequately treat river water. So that's when the quality problems began to arise.
Within days, reports of polluted water are pouring in.
Our water was yellow. There were things floating in it. My husband thought, I'm not going to drink this coffee. This is disgusting.
You had these weird smells. It smelled like old eggs, and you couldn't really put a finger on it.
You'd get out of the shower, you dry off, and you'd smell like the river. I mean, it's not lovely, right?
Despite the complaints, city officials insist the water is safe.
People were told there's nothing wrong with the water, it's fine. It was just something that we were going to just have to live with for the cost savings.
They said, your water's fine, calm down. Even though I'm holding up a bottle of water that looked like English tea, they said, no, your water is fine.
But within a few weeks, some residents are experiencing troubling symptoms.
People were complaining of hair loss and rashes, and there was some physical illness.
Rashes, hair falling out. We had people coming to meetings with bags of hair.
I had sores in my scalp, sores, big sores. I went to my primary care physician, and I didn't know, and he said, well, it looks like you got the black man's disease. And I said, what's that?
By August 2014, water advisories are issued after fecal coliform bacteria is found in the water.
I don't think that anybody was aware of just how pervasive this problem was. I think that they assumed that the stories about water problems were isolated incidents that might be the result of, say, some failure that was cured by a boil water advisory.
City officials take a wait-and-see approach to the problem. But the response from General Motors reveals how bad things truly are.
One of the General Motors plants is right on the border of Flint and Flint Township. And early on in the water crisis, General Motors, the plant, the V8 engine plant, they stopped using the water.
The water is so caustic, it's actually rusting their metal parts when they're using it for ordinary factory purposes.
GM, they have the big bucks. They switched themselves back to Detroit and left us with the Flint River water.
There's this big outcry, like if it's corroding engines, what is it doing to our bodies? You can imagine if people have health vulnerabilities, this is just gonna make it worse for them.
I put a motion on the floor to go back to the other system till we get it straightened out. That motion was passed by the majority of council, but the emergency manager said no. We didn't have a government.
Darnell Early, Flint's third emergency manager in just 1 year, defends his decision, saying the city doesn't have the money to make the switch back to Detroit water. By the end of the summer, the health issues include a spike in severe respiratory diseases.
And some of these diseases that came from the bacteria and germs in the water traveled through the air. They traveled through air conditioners, they traveled through hot water heaters and humidity and shower heads. The people who just had rashes on their skins and hair loss, some of us, we can consider ourselves blessed because some people died with an identifiable disease contributed from the water called Legionnaires. So I know a guy who caught the rashes, and a few weeks later, he was dead, and he had been in good health.
Over the following year, more than 90 related deaths are attributed to pneumonia and another 12 to Legionnaires. But the city's water supply remains unchanged.
There were these indicators that really should have alerted public health officials to a problem in Flint. For whatever reason, they didn't.
Then, in 2015, Flint's water problems become even more complicated. Along with chemicals and harmful bacteria, there's another hazard. In January 2015, the city of Flint, Michigan gets its fourth emergency manager in 3 years when Jerry Ambrose is appointed to the job. One of his first decisions is to reject a council resolution that would reconnect Flint to the Detroit water system.
People are enraged. They have health problems. They can't use this water. Nobody is listening to them. People are telling them that it's all in their heads.
To combat high levels of E. coli, chloride is introduced to Flint's water supply, but that creates a new problem.
We had high levels of what are called trihalomethanes, which are byproducts of chlorine disinfection that are created when chlorine interacts with organic matter in water. Those are carcinogenic. That's actually what brought Flint into violation of the Safe Drinking Water Act initially, was those high levels of disinfection byproducts.
Everyone's saying that their eyes are burning when they're taking a shower. They had a rash when they got out of the tub, when they gave their baby a bath.
In order to meet federal safety mandates, Flint officials try flushing the system.
You seen hydrants open up and run on all across the city, water just opening hydrants and people being told to let their faucet run, and you know, those were some of the initial reactions, but that wasn't gonna get it.
When that doesn't work, the city consults with one of the biggest names in environmental research.
Erin Brockovich seen it, and she chimed in. And then she sent in her expert on water, one of them, Robert Bocock. And when we met with Bocock, I was able to maneuver and get him on a tour inside the water plant. And that's when I first learned that people had not put corrosion control in the treated water. They had not followed the dictates of how you treat and distribute water, and that it was something very terrible going on.
The problem wasn't in the water, it was in the pipes.
The pipes that run down the middle of the street, which we call water mains, are typically made of iron, and iron is very susceptible to corrosion. So when water becomes more corrosive, it starts to eat away at that iron, and that changes the color of the water. It makes it a yellowish, brownish color.
But degrading iron pipes aren't the worst issue.
Most of the problem wasn't in the water main itself. It was in the connection between the water main and up to the house. Those were where the lead pipes were. And those are what the water eventually corroded and allowed lead to seep into somebody's water.
City testing confirms elevated levels of lead in the water, but there's no follow-up to implement new corrosion control methods. State officials even downplay the danger.
Flint's drinking water is meeting applicable state standards, and we should be encouraged by that.
To many, it feels like a cover-up.
Would you drink that? And it isn't, to me, safe to drink at all.
ACLU, working with scientists from Virginia Tech, decided to randomly sample a bunch of houses in Flint, and that's when we find out the extent of the problem. They found that there were elevated lead levels above the federal standards. When the ACLU says, this is the information we've collected, this is what it shows, the cat's out of the bag. It's not going to be possible for the emergency manager to hide the fact that there's a water quality issue anymore.
One of the key contributors to the study is a local pediatrician, Dr. Mona Hanna-Atisha.
She was a doctor at Hurley Medical Center, working with kids. She's always monitoring lead levels, right? And she understands where, based off of where we live, they should kind of be at, right?
Dr. Hanna-Atisha reviews the blood lead levels for children under 5 before and after the switch to Flint River water. What she finds is astonishing. The percentage of elevated lead levels has more than doubled.
But the levels jumped up so high, and there was no other explanation from it than other than the water.
In September, she goes public with her findings, warning residents to stop drinking the water.
It adversely affects cognitive development and can lead to everything from intellectual impairment to emotional and behavioral issues for children.
After these new findings, Flint residents have had enough.
People were going to every opportunity they could, to meetings, town hall meetings. We marched in the streets. We generated enough attention to bring the Civil Rights Commission to Flint.
That was really the turning point that forced state officials, ultimately, as well as local officials, to admit that there was a public health problem and that urgent action needed to be taken.
A week later, Michigan's Governor Rick Snyder announces that Flint will switch back to the Lake Huron water supply.
And I hope we get an answer relatively soon, and I believe we will.
He finally went back to the Detroit system. But by then, so much damage had been done. Going back to Detroit just didn't fix it. They had waited.
The impact of the crisis went beyond Flint's water supply. In the process of cutting costs, city managers sold off every asset they could, no matter how small.
They sold the nativity scene in front of City Hall. And I'm just like, you sell Christmas? Oh my goodness, is this gonna save us any money?
And we make a joke here in Flint about the emergency manager because they even sold that. So we just saying, wow.
October 2015, the city of Flint switches back to their original water supply, but the damage is already done. For water activists, the state actions are too little, too late. They not only want the problem fixed, they want accountability, all the way to the governor's office.
It almost took an act of Congress for the governor to finally take us back to our original source. So that was where the criminal part came in. It should have never happened.
This is the birthplace of the sit-downers. We're gonna organize, we're gonna fight back. We started showing up literally everywhere, nothing violent, just the fact that we were there. They gave us a name, the Water Warriors.
We marched in front of City Hall with signs, and we rallied. Sometime it would be 12 or 15 of us. Sometime it would be 100, 200 or more.
Over the next few months, Flint's water warriors staged protests throughout the city and at the state capitol in Lansing. In March, Governor Snyder appears before Congress and apologizes for the failures in Flint.
Not a day or night goes by that this tragedy doesn't weigh on my mind.
But it doesn't go over well.
The governor said, I have to live with this decision for the rest of my life. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding? Like, you're going home to your mansion. It had just came out. He had bought his wife a $10,000 cake for her birthday. And I'm like, how is that living with it? It's so insensitive.
The governor tries to share the blame with Flint's emergency managers and the EPA, who he says all misled him. His office releases hundreds of emails, and in one of them, an EPA staffer says she's not sure they should go out on a limb for Flint.
We're not going to go out on a limb for them. How could you possibly say that about an entire community? We don't care about you. You're just a data point. You know, they don't even connect with people's humanity.
Those 500 pages of emails really came back to bite all of those folks in the butt, because it showed what they were thinking at real time when it was happening and not saying a word.
The documents revealed that the governor's inner circle knew about Flint's toxic water problem as far back as October 2014, a full year before significant action was taken.
It was an inconvenient truth that the water was poisoned, so why acknowledge it? And nobody did until they were forced to.
Even more damning, officials also knew about the deadly outbreak of Legionnaire's disease long before they notified anyone.
There's no way to detect it without doing a special test. And so when Legionella levels were at their highest, nobody knew about that, other than a few state and county officials who, didn't bother alerting the public. And so it wasn't until January of 2016 that we learned about those 2 years worth of Legionnaire's outbreaks.
The part that stands out for me is, how could our government sit up there and allow this to happen to the people and not want to fix it?
For many, the answer is simple.
We accuse the governor and the Republican administration at the time of a reverse Robin Hood, where they would take from the poor and make themselves rich.
Flint got poisoned on the way to the payday for water.
Here's the Flint.
That payday was the Carrick-Nunde water pipeline deal. Many in Flint believed it was a cash grab all along, that the governor and his cronies would hand out sweetheart building contracts to their buddies in return for voter support and high-power positions after they left office. And because Flint was a predominantly black city, no one in Michigan would really care.
Water, to some, is like liquid gold. They can only see dollars and cents and what can go into their pocket. And they were taking advantage of this majority black community once again, as we've seen in the history of America. And they got caught.
But the deal goes beyond simple greed. The leaked emails show it might have also involved criminal fraud.
They put it out there that Flint had an emergency water problem and floated a bond request for investment. Flint didn't have an emergency problem that needed to be fixed. That's what's the fraud part. They fraudulently misrepresented a bond sale.
Tens of millions in bonds were sold to 3 investment banks, and residents allege those banks knew the dangers of switching to the Flint River all along, and the banks went through with the bonds anyway. In turn, Flint residents would be paying interest back to those banks for the very poison that was killing them.
We were tricked and lied to into get into this sweetheart pipeline deal.
People keep...
The disaster in Flint, Michigan has been called one of the worst cases of environmental injustice in recent American history. An estimated 100,000 people have been exposed to toxic water containing high levels of lead. Up to 14,000 of them children under the age of 6. To Flint residents, the entire city is one giant crime scene.
The first thing you see at a crime scene is that yellow tape saying it's crime scene, don't cross. That was on every water fountain in this city. Every school couldn't drink the water. This was huge, right? So this was, you talking about yellow tape everywhere, right?
The lead aspect of it, as we watch those children grow up to be 13 and 16 and 18, all we can do is hold our breath because of certain mental effects and behavior effects that you have to wait.
In 2017, the city promises to replace its lead water pipes by 2022 at no cost to residents.
We must remove and replace lead pipes immediately, and we want to start with the highest risk homes.
The money for the project comes after a $97 million settlement from a lawsuit filed by citizens groups against the state of Michigan.
No city suffered more than Flint because it was the order of the emergency manager with the state's approval to push that button and poison a whole city.
An even bigger settlement, totaling more than $625 million, comes in March of 2023. It's the largest civil settlement in Michigan history, with most of the money earmarked for the children of Flint and those still suffering from side effects.
I've had 2 surgeries on my breast, 1 surgery on my lower back, 1 surgery on my lymph node under my armpit, a partial hysterectomy, and a full hysterectomy. So I think I'm like 8 surgeries in now, 9. I'm in pain still daily. My daughter's in pain. Mommy, I don't want to ride my bike. My legs hurt. Why is my back breaking out? My teeth hurt. And when you look at the definition of what lead can do, my daughter's standing there and check, check, check.
My son is trying so hard to remember what he's taught in school, and he just can't. And he's normally a really happy-go-lucky kid, and he's getting depressed, and I can see it, and there's nothing I can do.
It will be years before the long-term effects are known, and the cost of repairing Flint's infrastructure could run into the billions. The damage to public trust could be even more costly.
We were able to get the emergency managers prosecuted. We got charges filed on the emergency managers, the governor.
There are a variety of players that, contributed to what happened here, but the emergency managers loom pretty large. The thing that ultimately got emergency managers charged with crimes had to do with the financing of that Carrignandi water pipeline.
Here's the plant.
So far, however, prosecutors have been unable to provide the accountability residents seek, especially with Governor Rick Snyder.
Somebody must pay for the violation now.
They have not got a conviction. Nobody's did a day. It's adding to the hurt and the frustration of residents who's been impacted by this, and we all have been impacted.
Most of those cases have been dismissed by the Michigan Supreme Court, and so we're waiting to see what developments there are at all in the future. But unfortunately, it does seem like it is possible that the people who were responsible for this may get away with it.
We still in the midst of the storm here. If one thing I hope that this episode underscores is that we're not done with Flint water disaster. It's still here. We're living with this. Our water settlement money is stuck in the courts. We still paying the highest water rates. We still got toxic water. I mean, it's improved, but it's still not safe. So what I'm saying is, We still on the losing end of this thing.
But for some, there is still cause for hope.
There seemed to be some energy now to get rid of the emergency manager law. But the biggest thing we've accomplished so far is that we put water, clean water, on the map for the nation to pay attention to.
There's no way we can change what happened yesterday, but we can definitely do something about what's going to happen tomorrow. And if we don't, then that's even a bigger crime than what.
The city of East Cleveland, Ohio is just 7 miles from downtown Cleveland, but can feel like it's a world away. It has undergone dramatic changes since its founding in 1911 as Cleveland's first suburb.
When Cleveland started booming and they started needing room to expand, they started moving a little bit east.
And the person who had the most influence in making it what it became was John D. Rockefeller. He owned a lot of the property around here.
He built his beautiful home up on a hill in East Cleveland where you can actually see Lake Erie from the front yard and everything. Massive facility, absolutely gorgeous.
Other powerful Gilded Age era businessmen followed Rockefeller's precedent, building beautiful homes and ornate mansions along Euclid Avenue, which became known as Millionaire's Row.
Many homes that were built in East Cleveland back in those days, they're over 100 years old now. You might find where they have 11, 12 fireplaces and the ornate woodworking and the great big massive rooms and the giant windows.
By 1950, some 40,000 people lived in East Cleveland, making it Cleveland's most densely populated suburb.
When I initially grew up in East Cleveland, it was a nice city. Kids running, playing, the normal things.
But as the 1960s unfolded, East Cleveland began to undergo profound changes as manufacturing jobs dried up.
The factories had been built in the 20s, 30s. They're expensive to maintain. They're inefficient by today's standards. So General Electric builds a new plant somewhere else. And General Motors closed the Fisher Body plant.
Businesses started fleeing the area. GE had a major facility in East Cleveland. They basically packed up and left.
As wealthier white families followed the jobs elsewhere, many of the less mobile black residents remained. Many homes were left abandoned altogether, while others fell under the control of slumlords.
Slumlords just let the community fall to its demise. Wasn't paying property taxes, houses became abandoned, all the businesses left, so the tax base left. Everybody is renters.
While city, state, and federal resources were funneled into neighboring white communities, East Cleveland was largely left to fend for itself.
The schools and homes started falling apart. Your sewer lines, your water lines, your roadways, your bridges, your housing, your factories, your business opportunities.
And once that happens, it's over. It becomes a shell of itself like that.
East Cleveland started declining and everyone seemed to ignore it. No one wanted to address it.
By 2013, the city's population had plunged from 40,000 in 1950 to just over 16,000. More than 4,000 homes sat vacant, and crime was rampant. Making matters worse, corruption ran rife through city government, since no one outside of the city seemed to be paying attention.
We're talking about the mayor, the council people, and the police. The corruption in East Cleveland is obvious and blatant. You can get away with anything in East Cleveland. You can get away with murders.
It was a reality that would prove all too true in the summer of 2013. For East Cleveland resident Belinda Miner, her nightmare begins on July 10th, 2013, when her 18-year-old daughter, Sherelda Terry, suddenly disappears.
So I was at work. My daughter Brittany, she called me on my cell phone and she said, Sherelda didn't make it home. And I said, what? She said, Sherelda didn't make it home.
Sherelda is Belinda's youngest daughter. Earlier that morning, Sherelda said her goodbyes before her stepdad gave her a ride to her summer job at East Clark Elementary School.
I was knocked out asleep, but I know that she gave me a kiss before she left. Her stepfather took her to her summer job every morning. So she would never be walking that early in the morning. She always had transportation.
Since her grandparents lived in East Cleveland, Sherelda would often walk to their house after work. And on this particular evening, she was planning to attend a Bible study meeting, but she never arrived at either place.
I just felt very uneasy because it's unlike her not to be in the place that she said that she's going to be in or where she's expected to be. And because she isn't, something drastic is happening.
Sherelda's family files missing persons reports with the Cleveland and East Cleveland police departments. After recounting their timeline to officers, Sherelda's family launches a desperate search to find her.
You know, when your child goes missing, you never think that this is happening. This is really happening to you.
Born on October 20th, 1994, Sherelda Helen Terry was the youngest of two girls to her parents, Belinda and Van Terry.
Sherelda was my world, my right-hand man. You know what I mean? She helped to shape me so that I actually was able to become a better person. She was a natural-born leader, even as a child.
Homeschooled since the 4th grade, Sherelda excelled at writing.
I noticed her gift started to come where she loved to write. She wrote poetry. She loved Dove soap. So she wrote like a commercial about her love and a relationship that she had with Dove soap. I began to identify that she was really talented in writing.
Sherelda found faith when she was young, and it became a driving force in shaping her life.
Sherelda wanted to have Bible study on her birthday, which is so unique because most people want to go out to dinner, they want to do something else, but she loved the Lord. She's had an upbringing where you're brought up to learn to love people and help. So she just went above and beyond helping other people. She spent a lot of her time at the East Cleveland Public Library tutoring students. She even tutored college students.
Although her parents divorced and Belinda remarried, Sherelda's family remained close. Her late father, Van, wouldn't hesitate to sing his daughter's praises.
He would always come and hang out with my dad. They'd sit on the porch and he'd talk about her. Always talk about her. Every accomplishment, every achievement that she ever made. Sherelda was his everything. He loved her. Like the best father that he could ever be to her.
Sherelda planned on attending college, but before leaving, she accepted a summer job in East Cleveland.
She'd gotten a job at East Clark Elementary School. She was going to be doing some clerical work and cleaning.
But when Sherelda fails to return home on July 10th, 2013, it raises immediate concerns about her whereabouts.
I was the missing persons liaison at the time. I called her mom and then I talked to her dad. And they were very concerned because she had never, ever done this before. Something was wrong, absolutely. Especially after she hadn't contacted anybody. So I was like, okay, let's check the city cameras.
As Detective McDuffie reviews the footage from July 10th, she sees Sherelda walking along a street not far from her summer job at East Clark Elementary.
We saw her walking up 152nd and across. There's a great big grocery store and little stores through this lot. And then she disappears. And I'm like, okay, that's not good.
Over the next week, Sherelda's family mounts an extensive search.
People were going door to door in the neighborhood of the path that she traveled, how she got home. I remember people driving around different places, hanging up flyers, sending flyers online. And I remember myself and my girlfriend getting in the car going to visit drug dealers. Because people who sell drugs usually know the whole neighborhood.
But as the days pass, there's no sign of Sherelda.
All I could do was pray. And I was just praying that God would hear me. That she would come home, that I would have her back.
But what no one yet knows is that Sherelda Terry's disappearance is tragically only the beginning of a nightmare that will haunt not only her family, but all of East Cleveland.
It let me know that you cannot judge a book by its cover. It let me know that in the community, you don't know what's going on in people's head. All of us are vulnerable.
By July 19th, 2013, 18-year-old Sherelda Terry had been missing for more than a week. She was last seen walking down a street in East Cleveland, Ohio.
It's just heart-wrenching for any family to have to experience this. For me, my prayer became, God, no matter what the subject, no matter what, can you just bring her home, no matter what? I just literally pray and ask God, come on, it's like, can you just please allow my child, no matter what the situation is, just allow her to be found.
That morning, a 911 call comes into the East Cleveland Police Department that changes everything. A resident reports a disturbing smell coming from a garage off Hayden Avenue.
I know when a dead animal smells, and I know what garbage smells, but I mean, that smells so freaking strong you could throw up. I mean, we just want to make sure ain't nobody in that other side.
The garage, with several parking bays, is located near a busy intersection.
Once the police arrived, they noticed that there were an immense amount of flies that were just permeating through the bricks. So where the bricks had not been pitted or fixed, they were just coming through, and the smell was just awful.
Officers find a lock on the garage door.
The police said, well, who parks in the first bay? And it was this Michael Madison.
A background check reveals 35-year-old Michael Madison lives in the neighboring apartment, just above a cable television business.
The woman from the cable company had his phone number, tried to call him and say, hey, the police are here, we need to get in here. There's some type of smell that's emanating. He paused for a minute and then he hung up. Well, the officer that was there said, we've got to break in. So he broke the lock and they went in.
The stench inside the garage bay is overwhelming.
They found a car that had been parked there, but on the side of the car was a comforter, and on top of this comforter were big industrial-sized garbage bags.
An officer starts cutting through the plastic.
There were layers of garbage bags, and so as a result, there were about 6 bags. Finally, he cut through.
Inside the garbage bags, they find the partially decomposed and mutilated body of a young black woman. Her body is folded in half at the waist, and her head is bound to her legs. There is a ligature still tied around her neck. A crowd gathers outside as word of the gruesome discovery spreads throughout the neighborhood.
Michael Madison's friends and neighbors were calling him to come back saying, they found a body. They found a body in your garage. You better come here. They're going to start asking questions. What's going on? He doesn't respond to them.
As more investigators descend upon the garage, onlookers see Michael Madison pass by the crime scene.
He drove by, and some of the neighbors saw. They see him in a passenger seat of a car driving by. Somebody gets the plate, and then they do a bolo on the plate. And then they start looking for him.
Police focus on those closest to Michael.
The circle is small, and then you go out from the circle. So mom was the next person, or baby mama with the 2 kids, because he had 2 kids that he periodically saw. They go over to the mother's house, and that's where he's at.
But just because they've located Michael doesn't mean he's going to cooperate.
He says he's going to come out, he's not going to come out, he's going to come out. They were also concerned because the mother was in the house. They didn't know if children were in the house.
As they surround the residence, officers continue trying to negotiate with Michael.
They actually had, I think, a bullhorn asking him to just surrender. Mr. Madison, please surrender. Mr. Madison, come out. Michael, do you want to have a conversation? No, I'm not coming out. You know, that kind of thing.
For 2 hours, police try to coax Michael out of the house with no luck. When that fails, they call in a SWAT team.
They position themselves, and they're like, if you don't come out, then we're coming in. SWAT has to be very conscientious about those other folks and what harm may come to them if they go busting in.
After a tense 2-hour standoff, officers decide to enter the home by force.
But before they were on the verge of going in, he comes out in pants and a t-shirt and his hands above his head.
In a flash, it's over. Michael Madison surrenders. police take him into custody for questioning. Back at the garage, officers and investigators from multiple agencies work to identify their victim. Finding no identification on the victim's body, authorities obtain a warrant to search Madison's apartment. Inside a closet, they find a purse belonging to Sherelda Terry. Within hours, the coroner confirms the body in the garage as Sherelda's as well. Investigators from the Cleveland and East Cleveland police departments break the news to Sherelda's heartbroken family.
I just remember falling to the floor. I just couldn't believe it was her. I didn't want it to be her. I didn't want it to be my child that wasn't going to come home. Everything just went silent. Everything for me in my mind, everything just paused because I could not believe that was my daughter.
Oh, it was heartbreaking. That was one of the saddest days of my life in my career.
Investigators are eager to talk to Michael Madison about how Sherelda's body ended up in his garage. Madison is immediately evasive.
I got called saying that they found the body in the garage. The place on Star and Hayes. Is that where you live at? I don't particularly really know where. He's all over the place.
It's a song and a dance with him. He'll tell you a little bit, then he goes on a tangent, then he comes back to it. It's never direct.
Investigators ask about a cryptic remark Madison had made after his arrest.
You had told me that we were going to make history here. This was historic. And all that. I'm trying to figure out what the hell was he talking about. You don't know what I was talking about? I can't figure it out for the life of me.
Madison's answer is just as puzzling.
I guess I might be on TV in front of the judge too on some high profile. What did I do to deny?
He's very arrogant. I mean, doesn't even want to discuss Sherelda Terry.
Investigators will have even more questions for Michael Madison when they make yet another gruesome discovery over the next 24 hours.
We found another body. Feel like you're on.
As word spreads that Sherelda Terry was the victim found in Michael Madison's garage, worried residents and TV news crews gather at the scene.
I seen the yellow tape, I seen CNN, I seen CBS, I seen all these different news crews. It was like 100 people out there now, and I could see people distraught, and that's when I knew it was something pretty bad.
The district attorney urges police to expand their search throughout East Cleveland.
He told them, you guys have got to start to canvass. If there's one body, there could be another.
We were out there for hours just searching empty houses in the basements and wherever, a body may be.
It doesn't take long for police to make another grisly discovery nearby. They find a second body.
Oh, it's right behind the garage. It's in a big pile of debris, twigs, branches are over it. They start looking and then they start, touching.
Her body is wrapped in several layers of garbage bags, with her body folded at the waist, just like Sherelda.
We don't know who she is at that point. We don't know who she is until she goes to the medical examiner's office. Her body was really decomposed.
It didn't have that fresh smell like Sherelda.
Investigators once again are eager to talk to their prime suspect, Michael Madison.
We found another body. Feel like you're on. I have no recollection after that.
Once they found the second bag and they questioned him, he said he didn't know them.
Can you tell me who the girl was next to the car? I don't know. I don't know her.
That was his big thing. Oh, I don't know them. Doesn't know her, doesn't know her, doesn't know her.
Investigators confront him with the evidence linking him directly to Sherelda Terry.
This young girl you said you ever seen before? Right? Her purse is in your apartment. Like I can't explain more, we need to talk to me.
While he continues to deny any knowledge of Sherelda and the second victim, Michael does open up about a general hatred that he has toward women.
I haven't had issues from males. My issues come from, like, you know, baby mama, mother, females in general.
Based on his own words, he was never good enough for them, or they said he was never good enough, and it drew the picture pretty clearly because he felt that they would dominate him and that they told him what to do and they were all bad. The hate that he has for women was so pronounced just by the words that he chose to describe them.
After hour upon hour of being pushed by detectives, Michael suddenly breaks down and drops a bombshell.
Bits and pieces would start to come out. There would be some type of capitulation after a while.
According to Michael, he found the body of Sherelda Terry in a closet in his apartment, but he claims someone else must have put her there.
How did the body get in the closet? Dumped in her room there? That I don't know. So I let people, you know, come in and use the place. And what did it look like when you found it? Just a bag. That's what I took it, you know what I'm saying? Took the body down and put it in the garage.
Michael claims he didn't go to the police because he was afraid of them. While investigators continue to question Michael Madison, the broken and battered community of East Cleveland bands together to help search for more victims.
It's almost like a horror movie that you don't want it to be reality.
Imagine like 4 or 5 people all going in the house together and splitting up in the house and going through every closet, every bedroom, every space, looking for a body.
It doesn't take long before searchers find a third victim.
There were a couple of houses right in the general area, and they found a window was open and a garbage bag that looked like all the other garbage bags sitting right.
After the gruesome discovery of a third body in East Cleveland, it now appears there's been a violent serial killer wreaking havoc throughout the city. It leaves people terrified.
Me being young and Sherelda Terry being young when she came up missing, it's like, do I want to go outside? Do I want to even go to the store? Do I want my mama to go to the store? Do I want my grandmother to go to the store and just be one of them people to just disappear without a trace?
Residents can't help but feel East Cleveland's neglect, poverty, and corruption all contributed to this unfolding horror.
Check this out. We're sitting here, right? We're on one of the main arteries of East Cleveland right now, outside of Euclid Avenue. Have you seen a police officer? Have you seen a cop? We've been watching cars go up and down, no patrol cars.
When you have grown up in a society that writes you off, and you're burdened by just trying to survive yourself, as much as you want to care for and look out for your fellow, neighbor, sometimes it's just hard because you're just trying to survive yourself.
It's terrible. So basically, if you got the wrong mentality, if you decide to kill somebody and you plot it right, you can get away with it around here.
At the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office, the third victim found is identified through her fingerprints.
The third body was Angela Deskins, and she was found just down the street a bit in an abandoned house. Again, same MO, 6 or 7 bags. Their bodies were folded up, duct taped.
Like Sherelda Terry, 38-year-old Angela Deskins has ligature marks around her neck. A background check reveals she had gone missing 6 weeks earlier.
When I heard that 3 women was found in East Cleveland, I did not think it was her until I got the word that it was her, and that was her.
Born in 1975, Angela, or Angie as she was known to her friends and family, was one of 4 children born to Marie and Robert Deskins.
Well, everybody loved her. She always had a smile on her face, always. And anything she could do for anybody, she would do it.
My little sister is like real close friends with her little sister. We all went to Euclid High School. She was really nice. She was a pretty girl. She was pleasant. She was soft-spoken. She was a lady.
After high school, Angie spent time working with her father.
He had a demolition company tearing down houses and things, and she got involved with it. He taught her how to use the machines, and I think she really loved that, you know.
Angie was last seen on June 7th, 2013, at her father's business, some 7 miles from where her body was found. For Angie's family, the 6 weeks that followed were excruciating, but it pales in comparison to what they feel now.
And it was just so hard. It's still hard because even it's been 2013 and it's still hard for me.
Fingerprints and tattoos help investigators identify the second victim found as 28-year-old Shatisha Sheely.
She was found second, but was probably the first one to be murdered in September of 2012. Her body was in 7 bags wrapped in a comforter and a sheet, and that was behind the garage. She had decomposed the most because she had probably been out there since September of 12, almost a year. The manner of death was homicidal violence because you could tell she did still have on her face bruising and a black eye.
At the time of her disappearance, Shatisha was dealing with some personal issues and had little contact with her family. Her daughter was living with family members while she tried to work things out.
Shatisha Sheely was a young woman that lived a very different life and really no contact with her family other than birthdays.
Because Shatisha would have long gaps in communication with family, there was no current missing persons report on file for her. According to resident Eric Wilson, he believes East Cleveland itself bears some of the responsibility for 3 women to go missing in the same small community.
Don't nobody care. They're hearing this type of stuff all the time. So we done got numb. It's just another person gone. Who cares? That seems like the feel, the spirit of certain parts of this community.
After the discovery of the third victim, all within a stone's throw of Michael Madison's apartment, investigators are concerned there may be more women hidden throughout East Cleveland.
By the time they found the third body, they're like, are there any more? And they continually kept asking him because they thought when there's 3 bodies, there's got to be 4.
Madison keeps saying he knows nothing.
How many bodies are you gonna find, Mike? Do me a favor and just answer me that. That's all I want. Am I gonna find another one? I don't know.
Cleveland has taken a severe toll on the community, leaving black women especially vulnerable.
I believe the reason that it's possible to have 3 black women that go missing from the same community within a matter of months is because people have decided to kind of throw the community away. It's not a place that many people care about.
If 3 white women came up missing in one of the more prominent suburbs of Cleveland, like Shaker Heights or Beechwood, it would be national news, if not international news, within 72 hours.
Ohio are investigating suspected serial killer Michael Madison after 3 bodies were found near his apartment. They learned Madison is well known in his neighborhood.
A lot of people I know knew him because he went to Euclid High School. He was a little younger than me though. He didn't go to school with me, but he went to school with people I know. And they didn't really describe him as bad, but they described him as a little strange.
After high school, Madison stayed in East Cleveland making a living in an illicit trade.
He sold drugs. He was the weed dealer. Everybody knew him. If he liked you, he liked you. If you were a woman, he didn't like you.
Investigators believe Madison met Sherelda about a week before her disappearance as she walked to her grandparents' house after work. Based on phone and text records, it appears he preyed upon her innocence.
She had met this man walking down Rosedale. They exchanged phone numbers. He says he's 25. He says his name is Ivan. She obviously takes an interest in him. A young girl, she's 18.
She didn't have very many friends, and if she had, the friends she had were affiliated with the church. So she didn't venture out a lot. She was an introvert. And they got to talking on Facebook.
Police and prosecutors surmise that Madison was a textbook sociopath with homicidal tendencies brought about by his anger toward women. They also believe he had a certain level of charm that he could flip on and off like a switch.
You could tell he was trying to groom her. You know, I could be your friend, come over to my house, that kind of stuff.
So, being a sociopath, he probably was a real ladies' man, but it was only for his own use.
The day she disappeared, Sherelda sent him another text.
She must have gotten under eye bad, texted him and said, "Are you available?" He said yes. She was coming up one of the streets. He was on the close by. He must have told her, "Just come to my apartment."
Sherelda was never seen again.
I just saw him as a monster. And as you learn about, they found these other women. Now he's just sadistic in my mindset.
Inside an interrogation room, detectives once again questioned Madison about Sherelda Terry's murder.
He does admit to taking her body out, moving the body.
Alright, Mike, you know how this girl died?
Madison claims he couldn't remember anything because he was typically high or drunk. But in a stunning admission, Madison says he does remember attacking Shatisha Sheely.
And what he says is that she gets really drunk and that he finds her trying to steal from him.
I asked her, was she the one that she might,
Madison says he became enraged and began choking Shatisha.
What happened after that? Put her in the bag, put her in the garage. Send her in the garage.
A couple of months later, Madison says he moved her to a spot behind the garage where police eventually located her. As for Angie Deskins, who was the second victim but the third to be found, Madison claims he doesn't remember anything.
I was the one in that house, like I don't recollect putting a gun in the house.
To help jog his memory, the next day a pair of veteran Cleveland homicide detectives are brought in to question Madison.
Michael, just between us, how many women, how many girls did you kill? I don't even recollect that one.
Unfortunately, the interview is cut short. Madison is due in court, where he is charged with 3 counts of murder and kidnapping.
He goes to court, he gets a public defender. I'm assuming they said, "You're charged with some serious things, don't talk to the police."
Madison is ordered held on a $6 million bond. As prosecutors begin preparing their case for trial, the families of Madison's victims are determined to make him pay, even if it means standing face to face with the monster himself.
He was not remorseful in court. He made all kinds of smirks in court. He was not caring. There was no compassion there. I wonder what in your life happened that caused you.
On Friday, April 15th, 2016, the murder trial of Michael Madison gets underway. It's been almost 3 years since the bodies of Sherelda Terry, Shatisha Sheely, and Angie Deskins were found in and around his garage in East Cleveland.
I finally got to actually see what he looked like. I don't even know that I had words. I just felt disappointed. I felt disappointed because out of an entire life that you get to use, you get to live, the choice that instead of being something great or selecting a career that could save and help somebody, you grew up to murder people.
Prosecutors present a parade of witnesses who describe Michael Madison as angry and bitter toward women, including an ex who had custody of his 2 children.
The neighbors were actually afraid of Michael Madison because of the way he was talking. When he was on the phone screaming at the baby mama, they could hear him, and he would always say after he hung up, "Oh, I have to kill her." It's just very dark.
Despite his repeated denials in his interviews with police, DNA evidence connects Madison to Sherelda Terry's murder along with Angie Deskins.
He had cut all his fingernails, and they found them in a dish. The DNA comes back to Sherelda Terry. DNA started to talk to us. There was a piece of carpet. We tested for DNA. It was Angela Deskins.
Phone records also prove that Angie had communicated with Madison on numerous occasions.
And then all of a sudden, her phone goes dead on this particular day at the end of May.
Prosecutors believe Madison masked his sociopathic tendencies long enough to establish connections with Angie and Shatisha, just like he did with Sherelda.
He took advantage of vulnerable girls.
I don't know if there was any sexual component to his murders, but he was outwardly nice to get them into the position where he could either have them willingly have sex with him or force them to have sex with him and then strangle them.
Michael Madison doesn't testify in his own defense, and his attorney calls no witnesses. His lawyer doesn't deny that Madison killed the women, but tells the jury that he was often impaired by drugs and alcohol. The jury doesn't buy the excuses.
He was found guilty of all charges.
The same jury had to decide whether to impose the death penalty.
They brought in all their mitigation specialists. We brought in our doctor.
According to the defense, Madison suffered severe abuse by his mother as a child.
Motive is known to the person who commits the crime. But here, based on his own words, his disdain for women, power and control, hatred of women. The hatred for women was very pronounced, and it was born out of the fact that his mother had different partners at times who would beat him.
It appeared Madison had felt emasculated in other relationships, causing him to further lash out against women, always placing the blame for his insecurities on them.
There was always something that the other person caused him to act out, when in fact, he had inside himself this hatred that he lashed out at people. He would get so enraged that he had the propensity to strangle, to rape, to bludgeon. I mean, obviously that side of him nobody knew.
His alleged abuse and troubles with past relationships may have caused him to hate women, but according to the state's expert, Madison was not mentally ill.
He didn't have a mental diagnosis. I mean, if he had anything, he could have been antisocial.
The jury recommends the death penalty.
He received a death sentence for all three of them.
At the sentencing hearing, as he gave his victim impact statement, Sherelda's father, Van Terry, hit a breaking point.
He went up to speak and he looked over at Michael Madison, and he still had that same smirk and that same disposition of non-caring and not being compassionate. And then when Van looked at him, I guess whatever went on in his mindset, it just caused him to lunge over there.
Never in a million years did I think that Mr. Terry would lunge at him, because he had been so quiet during the whole process. But the immense amount of hurt that he had in his heart just transcended that. He couldn't take it anymore.
The judge imposed the recommended sentence of death.
I forgave him because I was tired of his name. I didn't want to hear his name anymore. Because for me, I've forgiven you, and that frees me from you. To hold on to bitterness is like a poison that kills you daily. I refuse to allow the monster to take one more minute, one more second in my mindset, in my flesh, in my person. So forgiveness is for me.
In the years after the murders of Shatisha, Angie, and Sherelda, not much has changed in East Cleveland. It's still a community plagued by poverty and crime.
No one wants to stay in East Cleveland anymore. Everything has just completely deteriorated within the past 10 years.
Still, some hold out hope for their community.
You don't need millions of infrastructure deal money to straighten out some of these situations in East Cleveland. All you need is a heart and some eyes, and some people that know how to do things, know how to communicate.
Others hope East Cleveland will never forget the women whose lives were taken away so brutally.
We have honor day for the girls in the park in East Cleveland every year. And she had a big heart. Yes, and I want that heart back.
I get to work for my daughter's foundation and volunteer, and she still has me on assignment.
That is what keeps my heart pure and lovely before the Lord.